You even see my shirt? It says Marvel.
Mine says the Falcon.
Yeah, it's...
Because, Falcon's in it.
Hey, Falcon is in it.
Yeah.
It's still relevant. Hey guys, it's Cece.
And Bryan.
And Bryan. And we are here to talk about Marvel. So, for April, my patrons got to vote on a video that I'd be doing this month, as they do every month. Check out my Patreon. Link below. And for April, they chose an in-depth discussion of the MCU, and specifically like a review discussion of Avengers Endgame, which we saw yesterday.
Still recovering.
I think we're gonna try to make this a little bit at the beginning spoiler-free, and then as soon as we start talking about anything Endgame spoilery related, we'll let you know. So if you haven't seen it yet, you don't get spoiled, because you shouldn't have to be spoiled. That'd be annoying and terrible.
Spoiler, it's awesome.
Spoiler, it's awesome.
Yeah.
So I thought before we jumped into Endgame stuff, we'd talk a little bit more about general Marvel Cinematic Universe feels, favorite movies, least favorites, favorite characters, and then we can jump into the movie itself.
Sounds great.
2008 to now, I've seen every single Marvel movie in a theater, generally opening weekend.
Mm-hmm. I skipped on Thor 2.
You skipped on Thor 2. I, for some reason, sat in a theater and watched Thor 2. But were you sad you missed it?
No.
No, they gave you enough info.
Yeah.
Avengers Endgame relies a lot on the previous, 21 movies, and they reference pretty much all of them.
Yeah.
So, at any given point, it's good if you have a pretty workable knowledge.
Yeah, and I feel like they do it in a way, though, that, you don't have to have seen it.
Right.
But if you have seen it...
It makes it...
Yeah, it makes it better. It makes it more fun and gives you more context.
Yeah, for people my mom hasn't seen it yet, but her and her boyfriend just spent the last 2 weeks rewatching the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I think that for them is going to make this movie way more fun.
Yes.
People who were doing that big marathon beforehand... That's what this movie was made for.
Yeah, if you can, watch them and just go back and kind of refresh yourself, that's awesome. But
you don't need to.
No, definitely. And so good though.
So good. So my fave character forever and always is Iron Man.
Yes.
Just because he's my original dude.
Yeah, I'm a Captain America guy.
And I know you're a Captain America guy.
Iron Man is right there on that list. He's so freaking close. And I feel like a lot of times they switch.
Yeah.
But Iron Man's so good. I'm a Captain America guy. I'm also a Superman guy, so that probably
kinda
explains
tracks.
it. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So of the original group, I feel like that's a pretty good indication of where we're at. As the universe has expanded, I think, other people have come close to Tony. None of them will ever overtake Tony, to me, in my mind. But, Captain Marvel is one of my new faves forever.
Yeah.
I think... I love so many characters in Black Panther, and I really like T'Challa, but, Shuri is one of my new favorite characters, and I'm
Shuri's
really
great.
excited that she gets to maybe do more things, hopefully.
Yeah.
I'm excited about this new generation because I feel like there are so many solid players that it makes up for, the weaknesses in Doctor Strange, for instance.
See, I like Doctor Strange as a character.
Okay.
Just not in his movie. As soon as he was done with his movie, he became a great character, in my opinion.
Which is weird because that's also kind of how I feel about Captain America. I generally like him when he's not in his own movies.
Okay, I could see that.
Yeah.
Maybe a little too much of that Boy Scout attitude for you.
Yeah, exactly. That, I need other people balancing him out.
That makes sense.
So,
okay. Yeah.
I understand that opinion of, not in his own movies, but... he's pretty good in Infinity War.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff.
My surprise favorite is Scott Lang.
Yeah! I feel like we've been on such a journey with Ant-Man.
Yeah.
That the first movie was so fine.
Yeah. It was so weird because, the movie was, down here. But, Paul Rudd is always
He's
up
always
here.
up here.
And so it just balanced to a fine movie.
Yeah, and I think I was also really bitter about the Ant-Man movie because we almost had one directed by Edgar Wright. And so for the whole time I was watching that original Ant-Man, I just kept thinking, oh my god, we could have had a masterpiece on our hands.
That
and
instead
instead we just
amazing.
have something really generic that Paul Rudd is keeping afloat.
Oh, yeah.
But then Ant-Man and the Wasp was honestly really great.
Yeah, I liked it. Like, it was good. I didn't think that I could ever care about Evangeline Lilly, but that movie, it really, like, fleshed her out as a character.
Yeah.
She wasn't just, like, the potential romantic interest thing that she was in the first one. So, I liked that.
And she was the first title female character for the MCU.
Oh, yeah.
It's not Captain Marvel. Like, she's the first solo female superhero lead, but Ant-Man and the Wasp was the first one with a woman superhero title in the title.
Which is cool. It's great.
I feel like with the new batch of people, all of whom, I mean, didn't make it out of Infinity War, basically, but you've got to hope that all of those successful movies are going to somehow go somewhere.
Right?
Yeah, like, and I love Peter. I love Peter Parker. They've done an incredible job.
So different from the other ones.
Actually reinventing Spider-Man.
Yeah. I didn't think that, like, I would care about Spider-Man again. Like, when Tobey Maguire came in, like, I liked it. I really liked Spider-Man 1 when it came out in theaters. Spider-Man 2 was fantastic.
Amazing.
Spider-Man 3 was the reason
they should have...
Yeah, it's the reason it ended.
Yeah.
You know? And then when they rebooted it again, like, I was like, this is alright.
With Andrew...
pretty good. Garfield,
Andrew Garfield.
Yeah.
Which, like, even though I don't really love the movies, I thought Andrew Garfield did a pretty good job being Peter Parker.
Yeah. Very quippy. Very, like... I'm gonna talk while I beat you up, which is that's Spider-Man.
That's what we were missing with Tobey Maguire. He was more the type to cry while people beat him up. Yeah. But then, like, we lost Andrew Garfield, sadly, because he was advocating for a bisexual Spider-Man. So, like, that's... But Tom Holland...
So great.
He's
both
so great.
On and off the camera.
I mean, he's such a messy Gen Z kid, and I appreciate that.
So great.
But I appreciate that he brings that chaotic Gen Z energy into Peter Parker.
I mean, I was a big fan of that animated series where they brought Peter Parker back to high school, and this very much feels like that sort of really... energetic Peter Parker, and so I'm really looking forward to him fighting Mysterio and calling him Fishbowl Head.
I'm very excited that Jake Gyllenhaal gets to be in a Marvel movie because I love the man.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we've kind of said which movies are our least favorite. I obviously don't like Thor: The Dark World.
No.
I don't like Doctor Strange. No one remembers the Hulk exists.
Yeah.
Oh, and Age of Ultron is...
Age of Ultron sure happened. I mean, it did some really great things for, like, the way that Captain America and Iron Man don't see eye to eye.
Right.
It did some great things in establishing Clint as a character that we should care about.
True. As opposed to the first Avengers movie.
He's Arrow Man. Look at him. He got 2 of them. Like, Hawkeye, I never cared about him. Even, like, in the comics and stuff, I never cared about him.
Okay.
And to know that he's, like, a family man and that he's willing to, like, sacrifice himself to save others, like, all the time. He's always willing to put himself in front of another person, and that's amazing. That was great character development.
And, I also really appreciated that it felt like from the first one they were setting up Natasha and Clint as this romantic duo, and you're like, oh, of course the spy team has to have a romance.
Of course.
And, like, getting rid of that potential, you know, comes with pros and cons, because on one hand, I love their, like, platonic soulmate energy, Natasha and Clint, but it did mean that we got the terrible advent of the Natasha-Bruce love story, which is the worst.
I don't know if it's the worst. I mean, Hulk is lovable.
He's lovable, but I wish that Joss Whedon didn't think that infertility made people unlovable, particularly women.
Yeah. See, and for me, that it was never a Natasha Bruce romance. It was a Natasha Hulk romance.
Okay.
That, like, he's a raging monster. He's a killer, and no one will give him the time of day. No one will treat him like an individual.
Right.
And she was the first one to do that. And I really felt like that carried over into Thor Ragnarok.
Oh, for sure.
Hulk finally got to be a person. He finally got to understand who he was, what he wanted, how he interacts with others, instead of just something that you point and say, go smash that.
Smash, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and Thor Ragnarok is one of my favorite MCU movies.
So good. Definitely one of my
I'll talk about
too.
Thor more later, because that's one of the few gripes I have with Avengers Endgame is a couple things with Thor.
Okay.
I'll talk about that later. And we haven't really talked about Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, right. Oh, right, yeah.
I love both Guardians movies.
Yeah. I mean, the first one was so surprising.
It was.
It was so good. And, like...
The second one had such a hard act to follow, but did it by bringing even more heart to that series.
It did. Like, you get to know Quill better. You get to know his motivations better. You get to... He had character development. Yeah.
Rocket?
How did you think that Yondu was going to be your favorite? And then you did.
And then by the end, you cry about Yondu.
Oh my gosh.
And you cry about Rocket.
I bawled. And Rocket, yeah.
And I feel like both of those movies were amazing because by the end of both of them, I cried. And by the end of both of them, I didn't expect who I was going to cry about.
Yes.
Because Guardians 1, where you're like, oh my god, one of the main characters of this movie is a tree? How am I supposed to care about a tree? And then you get to the end of the first Guardians and you cry in the theater.
Yeah, that was really great. And the end of Guardians 2, it was really nice to see them coalesce as a family.
Yes.
Especially with, like, Nebula and...
Finally, like, bringing Nebula in.
Yeah, and just, like, the fact that Nebula and Gamora got to be sisters.
Yes.
Like, finally. They'd spent their entire life at each other's throats, and now they get to be together. That was...
Yeah. Well, and that's one of my favorite storylines as far as, like, you know, women have been kind of gypped in the overall history of the MCU, and they're slowly making up for that. Like, Black Panther delivered so many incredible female characters all in one go. And, yeah, a story like Guardians 2, where you were finally seeing development between two sisters who'd basically grown up abused, and because of that learned to hate each other, slowly getting over that and learning love together was really powerful. And I feel like we got to see some of the payoff of that in Endgame. A lot of the payoff of that in Endgame.
I mean, because we can talk about Avengers Infinity
War, yes.
Right? That, you get so much out of that in terms of character development in a very short time.
Yes.
You get so much payoff for having seen those other films, just like with Endgame. Like, it's good. You can watch it on its own, and there will probably be some things that confuse you, but, like, Thor, how he deals with loss.
Absolutely.
How he deals with the fact that his home is gone, his people are gone, his brother is gone, his best friend apparently is gone. You know,
out of nowhere. His best friend. Who was it?
Heimdall.
That was okay.
Yeah. Not any of the Guardians 3 that he hangs out with all the time, apparently. No, Heimdall.
Not even Valkyrie, his new bro, or, like, Korg, his new... No.
I guess, I mean, he's like 900 years old.
Yeah.
So maybe he spent the first 400 with Heimdall, you know.
And then eventually we got the Warriors 3.
Yeah. That's probably it. It's gotta be it.
And it's so weird because, like, in Infinity War, I love a lot of what they do with Thor, but one of my only gripes about Infinity War was also the fact that the Russos have a tendency to undo the work of Thor Ragnarok, which I think is also a thing that happens in Endgame. I just think there's just sort of this continued urge that they have to throw away.
What Taika Waititi did
what Chris Hemsworth did so well for developing that character and making him new. I just feel like neither of these two Avengers movies were that willing to engage with Ragnarok Thor.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess I saw it as, like, this is post Ragnarok Thor in terms of He, especially Infinity War, he just wants to run away from that loss, from his feelings. He wants to ignore them and just keep moving forward because he's a warrior. So the only way he knows how to deal with loss and to deal with grief is to just keep finding something to beat up.
Yeah. Well, and I think Infinity War, like, as far as character development, definitely embraced that. Infinity War, my issues were more like physical consequences, like lost his eye. We're gonna give him an eye. Okay. Lost his hammer. We're just gonna give him a new weapon. So I feel like Infinity War wasn't willing to engage with the physical consequences, and Endgame wasn't as willing to engage with the emotional consequences.
Okay, yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that.
Yeah.
There's an argument to be made about time.
Absolutely.
But you're right. I feel like more time could have been spent with that. Especially because they spent so much time with, like, Quill and trying to be big and masculine around Thor. Like, just give that time to Thor to talk some more to his favorite rabbit.
Yeah, yeah, like, that would have been great, especially as we're getting to a point where, like, we're coming to the end of a lot of the original Avengers. Yeah. And a lot of them are getting their due, and a lot of Thor did get a lot of due, but could have used a bit more. Yeah,
I agree. The Infinity War thing that, like, really got me was not necessarily, like, the end, like, you could see that coming, right? To some extent. The thing that I really liked about that was the humanization of Thanos.
Oh, yeah.
I think that aside from Black Panther, this was, like, one of the best villains that you don't relate to him and being like, oh yeah, I'd do that.
Yeah, but that definitely makes sense.
But you understand his motivations to some degree. He's a zealot about it. He's like, it has to be this way. This is the only way it'll work. And you guys are going to thank me when it's done.
It just started happening that within, like, 2017, 2018, they figured out how to do better villains. Like, Spider-Man, he wasn't Spider-Man, but bad. It was the Marvel Universe, like, engaging with the consequences of the Avengers on the common man, and so you kind of relate to that Michael Keaton anger, even if you don't agree with his decisions. Killmonger, who was making a lot of great points. I don't think we give Nakia, Lupita Nyong'o's character, enough credit for having basically all the same ideas and her being right the whole time. But, like, that's why Killmonger works. He has the same ideas as the love interest in Black Panther, so...
He's got those same ideas that, like, make sense to some degree. Like, the way he wants to carry out and fix those problems is very problematic. But, like, he wasn't just the mirror of Black Panther. And the fact that Black Panther... You've said this several times, just, like, at the end realizes, he was right about a lot of things. Let's start incorporating his ideas into how we do things.
Just in a safer way that's not going to doom a lot of humanity. So I think we can start talking about Endgame, which we haven't spoiled up to now. I think pretty much a good spoiler-free takeaway was that we both loved this movie.
Yeah.
I cried for, like, the last half. I just, like, started and then never stopped until it was over.
Yeah. And I'm secure enough in my masculinity to say that I bawled.
Oh, absolutely.
Like
seat shaking, crying.
Yeah, and it wasn't, the crazy thing it wasn't just, like, sad crying. It was, like, happy crying.
It was overwhelmed.
And, like, overwhelmed crying.
Yeah.
Like, there were so many emotions that this movie made me go through that I didn't know I was going to be going through. The way I describe this movie is it gave me everything that I wanted and everything that I didn't know I wanted.
Yeah, that was, I think, the biggest thing where, like, the whole sustained crying bit was it just kept... I kept feeling this overwhelming feeling of this feels earned, but I never could have predicted the way that this feels earned, the way that we have lived with these characters for so long as, like, a collective group, and everyone in that theater was just as invested in this incredible thing happening, and it's just, like, a really overwhelming feeling. Like, I don't know how much you relate to, like, growing with them, but when Iron Man came out, I probably would have been
6
13.
years old.
In 2008, 13. I would have been 13, which is, like, yeah, I've grown from a teenager into adulthood through these movies, and I think that that's, like, there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, and I mean, I was 23.
Yeah.
What's up? Now you know my age. I was 6 years old, and now I'm 16, ready to drive with my awesome beard. And no, I was 23.
Okay.
And I'm not the same person that I was at 23 at all.
Who could be the same person that they were 10 years ago?
But no, yeah, like, I'm not the same person that I was when I was 23. Like, and I've grown as a person, and part of that growth, to some extent, was with these movies, with these characters.
Well, yeah, there always feels like some sort of limitation with movies that they can't develop characters the way a show or a book can because they get more time.
Yeah.
And I think what is remarkable about a cinematic universe is that it can start to feel like you get that depth of character development because you get to stay with those characters for 10 years.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what Marvel pulled off is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, it's... You know, I'll bash on DC for a bit in that, like, they tried to go too fast. You don't get thrown into a family reunion and be like, oh yeah, all these people, I love these people, let's talk, let's have a good time. It's when you know those people and you establish connections and, you know, maybe hang out with them a little bit at a time. And then at the 10-year reunion, be like, we're family, we're bros, like, this means something.
I think spoilers starting now. Spoilers! Yeah, we're gonna start talking about Endgame and go in some kind of, like, chronological order.
We're gonna try.
Like I said, we've seen this movie once. We saw it yesterday. It's been, like, a little over 24 hours. So we're gonna do our best to go through this chronologically and discuss stuff that, like, is in depth, but maybe this video isn't 2 hours long. We'll see. The movie opens, as it should, in my opinion, on Tony Stark.
Yep.
And not only Tony Stark, who, like, we've seen go through a lot, but Nebula, a character that you don't really expect to love the way you do, but you've also seen her through a lot.
You've seen growth.
You've seen
growth in what originally was just some robot character.
Yeah.
Just some robo-villain. And now she's trying to be a person.
She's trying to be a person, and Tony's helping her be a person as they're both, like, facing down their own mortality, playing games together, knowing that neither of them know each other, and it's very likely they will be the last two people that they will see.
It's crazy. Their main motivation was to get back home, and they could have stayed on that planet and had plenty to breathe, you know, maybe they don't have food and water. But, like, so the fact that they were willing to take that chance, and that the two of them are working together and playing together.
And form an attachment, the way that she, you know, Nebula picks him up and puts him back in his chair. Like, she has clearly grown as a person, that she's only known Tony for, what do they say, 21 days?
I think so, yeah.
It's been about 3 weeks that they've known each other, and she's already shown him so much more care than she's shown basically anyone else she's ever met. Because they both just have this understanding that all the two of them wanted was to go home and see who else they knew was dead.
Yeah.
And they aren't going to get that chance.
And, like, Nebula, early on, I mean, especially, like, Guardians 2, her main motivation would have been kill Tony so that there's more resources for her, so she's more likely to survive. And, like you said, when she carries him... When she sees that he's fallen asleep on the floor and she carries him to the captain's chair so he's more comfortable, like, it's huge.
Well,
it's a small thing that's huge.
Yeah, when she gives him the last of their rations.
Yep.
When he hands it to her and she thinks it through and pushes it back to him. Yeah, it's such a sign of both of them changing. But in particular, Nebula. And then my girl saves the day. I don't know how she knew where they were. The only thing I can assume is that she made it to Earth and Rocket was like, my friends were all headed to...
Yeah.
Did he know they were headed to Titan?
I think so. And,
I think he knew that they were headed
they
to...
all knew that, like, he was going to Titan. I think Gamora said that.
Yeah.
But, like...
So, the only thing... Because at the end of Captain Marvel, we got the scene where she shows up. And that's the thing I'm guessing, is that she shows up, Rocket, worried about his friends, says they were on Titan. She flies out, searches until she finds them.
They could have also just figured out, because, like, that's where that evil ship was going, sort of thing. So, but yeah.
Carries them.
Yeah,
home.
That was really cool.
Which was cool.
I really like that Pepper
is
alive.
Oh, I know. Like, I've really missed her these past few movies. I don't like Gwyneth Paltrow, but I really like Pepper.
Yeah.
And she has been, like, a clear absence in the past few Avengers movies, and... Like, she wasn't in Civil War at all. I think she was a phone call that he missed. It's been a while, but she's the other person who started out the cinematic universe, and I feel like they gave her due when it came to that.
Happy was in it again.
Yeah!
Jon Favreau started
who created this cinematic universe and actually got to be in the movies again.
That was great. It was really, like, disheartening, though, that Tony had given up.
Yeah. But I also feel like they finally sort of gave some kind of level of appreciation to the fact that Tony's been having a mental breakdown for the past 10 years.
Yep.
And no one really pays attention to the fact that he's been having a mental breakdown for 10 years.
Yeah.
So, like, it was horrible and heartbreaking to watch, but I'm glad that they finally let him absolutely break and tell everyone that the universe is fucked and I'm done.
He has no hope left and no motivation to try anymore because he knew what was coming. He tried to stop it. That didn't work. And it was over. And
not only did it not work, but, you know, Peter, who he's not maybe his son, but they do kind of represent that for each other, a father figure and a son figure. To go through all of that, finally open your heart to someone besides Pepper and say, okay, this child is my responsibility, and then to have him die in your arms, I can't think of a better reason to have a complete and utter breakdown that there's no fixing it.
One of the very first things he says is, I lost the boy.
Yeah.
And that's heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking, and I appreciated Captain America being like, yeah, that's... If you need to have a breakdown over that, that's fine. We did lose a lot of people, but I understand through my understanding of you that this might crush you, and it's okay to take a beat.
Yeah, I think that when Cap said, we all lost people... He wasn't trying to minimize the loss. He was trying to empathize. Yeah. With what Tony was going through, to say, I know how you feel. Mm-hmm.
Which is, I think, shown even more when, like, we get Captain America in the grief counseling session that he's in. He's never trying to take away the pain that other people are feeling. Mm-hmm. He just sort of takes it upon himself after that moment to... You know, everyone's healing, and maybe that's all he can do anymore to help people. Yeah. And I appreciate that.
Captain America, I think, he's also a soldier. And so his instinct is to counterattack. Mm-hmm. And that leads them to Thanos. All the Avengers are just ready to fight. They're ready for another battle. They're ready to get those stones and fix everything and
I feel like Thanos is still waiting to be thanked.
Yeah.
Even in that moment.
Yeah.
That they will finally realize that he was right.
Yeah.
And he's just never going to get that.
And I love that they're like, well, we've got this new weapon. That means we'll win. And they run in there, and you can really see Thor's regret in that scene. Mm-hmm. When you find out that the Infinity Stones are gone, and this is after Thor is already just like, he's wasting no time. He just chops off Thanos' arm. He's like, we're not going to play that game anymore.
We're not doing this.
We're not going to be nice and punch him. We're going to kill him. Mm-hmm. That's what we're going to do. I should have killed him before. I'm going to kill him now. And when they find out there's nothing that they can do, that all of the Avengers are like, well, we got to figure this in. What if we do this? And what if... And you can tell Thor he's just done.
He's done.
He cuts off his head and walks away, and...
He cuts off his head because, like, that's that's the thing that he hasn't been able to stop thinking about since they lost, is that you should have gone for the head, which is going to continue to haunt him, even when he thinks he has that moment where he's like, I went for the head, I did it, I'll be fine now. Yeah. And he's not.
And so when he cut it off and he walked away, and then we're set with 5 years later. It's like,
which I feel like we were all trying to figure out what the time jump was going to be, because it was clear from the trailers there was a time jump. Yeah. But I think I was thinking it was going to be like 2 years. Mm-hmm. I don't know why 2 years was the thing. I thought, I was like, yeah, probably like 2 years, 5 years. Oh God, that just feels like such a bigger number.
5 years is just like, think about who you were as a person 5 years ago.
Well,
like.
Yeah, and I was thinking about, the timeline, which means that Endgame is set in 2023, if we are to believe, like, the Marvel official timeline that they give us.
Which means that, like, the new Spider-Man is set in 2023. I like that the first thing we get after that 5-year jump is people talking about how their life is terrible, and there's...
It's still impossible to deal with.
Yeah, shit happened, and then they kept living, and they had to figure out how to do that. And
they're not managing it that well.
Because we get that awesome gay representation.
Oh, yeah. I mean, landmark gay representation. Man. That unnamed gay character... one of the Russos. Yeah. Because it was very important that one of them play that character.
Yeah. Straight white man. It's good, though, that they were talking about that even going out to dinner, even that thing that was so normal before this 5 years later jump is just people crying because the whole world has gone to shit and you just have to keep going.
Yeah, well, and try to imagine holding a conversation about anything in your past, knowing that 50% of the people from your past are gone, and you had to mourn them all simultaneously. Yep. Like, it's... Getting to know someone is just wading through their grief with them at this point.
Now we have to run the world with 50% fewer people, and doing that is extremely difficult. And that's why Captain America becomes a grief counselor.
Because what else is he going to do when that is going to be the most... Like, that is the epidemic now. Yeah. Is, like, sure, there's still crime, but the people who need to be saved are everyone left.
Yeah. It's the new front in his war.
Yeah, absolutely.
To just fix everything and make everyone better. We didn't even talk about the actual opening scene, which is Hawkeye.
Oh, fuck, that's Hawkeye right. I forgot that was the opening scene because I blocked it. It was so upsetting.
Just having a nice little time with his family on his farm, teaching his daughter to shoot, calling her Hawkeye. His boys throwing around the baseball. His wife setting out some nice
picnic
salad-y stuff.
Hot dogs.
And then just suddenly they're gone. He didn't even see them.
He didn't see them leave, and we get a little bit at the end of Infinity War that basically anyone who wasn't on the battlefield has no idea what Thanos' plan was, had no idea that it was going to become a reality very, very soon. Yep. So Clint had no explanation. He didn't see them go, and he had no explanation for where they could have gone.
They were just gone, and he panics, and then... Bah, 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 and like...
Everyone in the theater like, oh no, is this going to be another Infinity War? Yeah. And I feel like I really love that it wasn't. Yeah. That this was, honestly, for most of it, a very light-hearted movie.
It was.
It was bringing it back to the original Avengers movie where, like, things are serious. We lost people. Coulson's dead. But we are still going to quip. And we're still going to have fun with it. Yep. And I missed that in Infinity War. Yeah. I was glad it was back here.
Yeah, because actually it doesn't do the Avengers after they disappear. It's a fun, happy oldies music. Yeah. Because we're now cutting to Tony and Nebula playing paper football.
Yeah. Like, while they're listening to, like, Guardians music.
Yeah,
because
listening to Peter Quill's
That's what
soundtrack.
Quill would have on the ship.
Jumping back to that 5-year jump, the fact that people are... dealing with it in like different ways. We've got Captain Marvel, who dealt with it with a awesome haircut.
The gayest haircut. I aloud was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
When they showed her in her hair, audibly said, oh my god.
Yeah, but like Natasha's still trying to run the Avengers. She's still trying
That's
to...
the only thing she can cling to anymore.
That's what gave her purpose after she was an assassin.
Well, and it's what gave her purpose, and Fury gave her a purpose, because Fury treated her like a person, and Hawkeye treated her like a person, and she doesn't have either of them anymore. Yeah. One of them is dead, and one of them is committing atrocities.
Mm-hmm. He thought that he was done fighting, and to be rewarded with the loss of his family. That's intense. So he went to the other extreme.
Yeah. And I mean, like, him and Natasha have a bloody past, so it's also not a first for him to be killing people. Yeah. I think it would be naive, at least to Marvel Cinematic Universe canon, to assume that Hawkeye is not a killer. Of course, once he loses this family that presumably pulled him out of that life to an extent, gave him a moral compass to follow, to lose them, of course he's going to fall right back.
He willingly left his military family, the Avengers, in favor of his actual family, and then he loses them too.
Scott comes back.
Scott shows up because a rat walks across the instruments.
Yes.
That was great.
That was great. I was wondering how they were going to get him back. I appreciate that it seems like that warehouse, that storage warehouse, is probably the warehouse of the Vanished.
Yep.
That they probably have a lot of those places that people just sort of put all of their stuff.
Yep, just shove a bunch of things in case they come back.
Yeah, because they don't know what to do with that much stuff. Let's just store it.
It hasn't been 5 years for him, and
it's been 5 hours.
Which, like, yeah, that's terrifying, but, like, it's only 5 hours. He comes back, and his daughter is a full-grown person. He has to first just, like, in terror, look at all these memorial stones to see if his daughter is dead. And
no one will talk to him.
No one will. He asks what's going on? No one will answer him. He has to then find his daughter as almost an adult. Like, she's got to be like a teenager at this point. He missed that.
Which, like, considering his motivation for both Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp is just his love for his daughter. One of my favorite relationships, honestly, in the MCU is because he's a really good dad. He is. He's not like a bad dad. He does a good job. He loves his daughter. He does everything for her.
Especially in the second one.
And so the fact that he had to miss out on that, someone who was so dedicated to being a good dad, is... like, tragic. It's deeply tragic.
And so then him going to the Avengers, him presenting them with that idea that maybe we can reverse this, and that they need to find someone who's smart enough to help with that process, and going to Tony first.
And him having a daughter who he loves so much. It's all I ever wanted for him.
And, like... the thing that I leaned over and said to Cece, he's not going to want to do this because time travel might erase his daughter.
It might erase his daughter. Yeah, which was, like, I feel like people were theorizing at the end of Infinity War, or during Infinity War, when Pepper is talking to Tony when he's on the spaceship, she's trying to say something, and pretty much everyone... they were all saying, she's saying that she's pregnant. She's trying to say that she's pregnant. So presumably...
because he had the dream.
Yeah, because he had the dream. I mean, which is weird. Yeah. I don't know about Tony being a prophet. Kind of seems like he is. Odd.
Oh my god. He saw a vision of the attack that Thanos was going to do. And then he also had a vision of him having Tony Stark is a prophet.
I think he's a prophet. Anyway, if we are to believe that that is how old she is, and based on her relative size and my knowledge of children, which is sparse at best, it seems like she's 5 years old.
She's talking like a 5-year-old.
She's talking like a 5-year-old. So, you've got to assume that anything after that moment is a risk for him.
I was like, nope. If there's no way, I've already moved on. I've already got this. I don't want to lose this. This is all I've ever wanted. if you guys do this, you're doing it without me.
Then we get Bruce Hulk.
Which
the studious fellow,
Professor
who is also
Hulk.
the burliest.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love him so much.
Taking photos with kids, being so well adjusted. It's everything I could have dreamed for Bruce Banner.
Eating 17 crepes. And
I'm really happy for the man.
I really like that he came to terms with himself. Like, with the Hulk, that they're now one, you know? And that's made him stronger in both ways. You know? The fact that he is not smart enough to do it, but like almost smart enough is great.
It's
too.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's a great way to measure out the hierarchy of who is intelligent in the MCU. And what I said after we got out of the movie was the reason that they had to let us know that Shuri got snapped like before this movie came out is because if Scott had gotten out of the quantum realm and been like, we need to invent time travel, we need a brilliant mind, and they went to Tony, everyone would have been like, excuse me, what the fuck? If they hadn't gone to her, it would have been laughable, which is why they had to be like, and definitely Shuri's gone, and always has been.
We totally said that before. It's fine.
And I'm sure there are still people in Wakanda who are smarter than Tony Stark because they're a more advanced society, but they don't know Cap, so that's who he would go to. He'd go to the two people he knows well first, unless Shuri and T'Challa had been there, and then he would have called them first.
Yes. And we would have gotten an amazing scene of her time traveling with memes.
Yeah. Oh, that would
great.
We'll just have to leave the meme adventures of Shuri and Peter to another movie.
Yes. Yeah, the fact that it didn't work, the fact that Tony Stark comes around, the fact that Pepper encourages him
really shows how much their relationship has grown since Iron Man 2 in particular. And like Iron Man 3 was also about him giving up being Iron Man, but I feel like it was less extreme than Iron Man 2, which I don't really love Iron Man 2, but that movie is a great example of Pepper being like, I don't understand what you're going through, and I reject hearing what you're going through. It was nice to see sort of that completed arc of they both know each other well enough by now to know that she knows that he's never going to sleep if he doesn't do something.
He needs to help. If he can help save billions of lives, he's never going to be able to rest until he does.
And that was the beginning of his character, was the moment he found out that his weapons were being sold to what he perceived as the enemy is terrible, but I think there's also been sort of a history of him going, I mean, making weapons for anyone was a bad thing, and he's grown fearful of weapons and giving anyone access to weaponry. So, yeah, I feel like it did come full circle that he's more and more just been, I have to save everyone because of the amount of blood I feel is on my hands from my family's legacy.
Just the fact that they both know that it might end up with, it might go wrong, but it's still right to try, was great. So I guess then we get into Time travel.
Well, I did really like, this is a quick aside, but I loved the interlude of them figuring out where all of the Infinity Stones were, and I loved the scene where they're all laying on the table, and Natasha goes, wait, if you pick the right year, there are 3 Infinity Stones in New York at the same time, and I was gonna like, what? Like, I love all of them. It was 2012 Avengers fandom dreams happening that all anyone in 2012 wanted was for everyone to move into the Avengers Tower together and just be a big weird family, and I feel like that sequence, people who were on Tumblr in 2012 reading Avengers fanfic, did you feel as fulfilled as I did?
Before we talk about time travel, we gotta talk about Thor.
Oh, yeah.
The new Asgardian king.
The new that's the other bit that, like, I'm gonna jump to the end of Thor's arc in this movie for a minute, because I'm just upset by the fact that, so the Thor movies, the first one, he thinks he deserves to be king, and eventually learns that maybe he's not the right person. Thor 2 is still having this push and pull between him being king and him really rejecting that role. And then Thor Ragnarok is him slowly accepting that he is the only person for the job. He's the only person who can rule Asgard. I wish that we wouldn't necessarily have gotten to the end of this movie and had Thor be like, I shouldn't be the king, because it feels like that was the arc of the Thor movies. Yeah. And I know that he went through some shit, and I do understand to a certain extent, like, why he truly feels he can't do that anymore, but that is the emotional thing that I was having an issue with as far as Ragnarok.
Okay, yeah.
he came to this point, and then the Russos are kind of like,
JK.
Never.
No, I could definitely see that. I think that Thor, at this point, I think at any point when you sort of like give up on life, it's really hard to get back to that point.
Yeah.
And I guess I saw the end of his arc being, these people do not need someone who has to work on himself to lead them.
Yeah.
I guess his arc over the Thor movies was coming to terms with his kingship and his need to be the person who leads. I feel like you're right, that is the arc of his character over the Thor movies.
Right.
But I don't think that it necessarily needed to stay because he has a new arc.
Yeah.
Right? And if he had stayed the king, if he had stayed that guy who's always sure of himself, and then, is like, I'm the leader of these people and stuff like that, I feel like he would not have grown at all during this.
Okay. That makes sense.
I feel like he needed a new arc in this. And so, while I do agree that they sort of moved away from that, that it was so that he had a new arc in this one as someone who knows that he's the king, knows that he's got to do the right thing, to someone that the right thing is not necessarily what I do.
Right.
The right thing is making sure that this situation is handled by the person that is best to handle it.
Which, that is Valkyrie, and I hope it carves out a future for her to be more involved in future movies. As, she's the Asgardian that's on Earth who's super powerful, so in future instances, let's call Valkyrie. Yeah. I completely understood his arc at the beginning, and I think at the end they could have used it less for comedic relief, but as a person who's sunk down into my own head before, I get it. I get what that arc means for him, just on an emotional level. Yeah,
and I really hope moving forward with the movies that if Thor is going to be a part of them,
the Guardians in particular,
that they don't just harp on him being the comedic relief. Yeah. That instead they give him an end to that arc of self-discovery, of finding himself again, of creating a new purpose. I really hope that is what ends out his character. Yeah. That finalizes his character. Yeah. Because it would be a shame to see it end on this note.
Yes.
It's better than him just, moping around, and because it shows a start to a journey of self-discovery. But
and it feels like he found someone in Rocket that maybe understands, and I understand completely clinging to that one weird dude who kind of knows what you're going through, to be like, I'm gonna hang out with him.
I'm Rocket.
Oh no, I'm Thor. I'm post-Guardians 3 Thor. I've come to some sort of self-actualization. Yep. But then time travel.
Yeah, time travel.
Which I loved. We were great. So worried for the entire year leading up to this movie. We've just been like, they can't time travel. They can't time travel. If they do time travel, I'm going to be so mad. So mad if they time travel. They did it in a way that didn't make me want to tear my hair out. Right? And in a way that, paid so much appreciation to the movies that had come before.
Because that was my biggest problem. Yeah. with the idea of time travel, is that it was going to erase everything that had happened.
If they were going to go back in time, that they were going to do the thing that, thank God, someone was like, why don't we just go back and kill baby Thanos? That was dark!
Yeah.
I'm glad that someone brought that up, because yeah, that's what I was worried they were going to do, is just go back to 2012, because those were the set photos we saw, were 2012 Avengers, and just undo it, because it would have been such a disservice to fans undo so many years of movies.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that they not only were like, we can't do that because of this.
Yeah. Brolk was like, that's not how time
works. That's
not
how time travel is. So I'm not only glad they laid it out there, but then when he goes to Tilda Swinton,
the Sorcerer
Supreme. That she's the one who's like, hey, if you do this, you're gonna ruin our reality, and we become this terrible branch.
We become the darkest timeline.
Even more relevant, because there were multiple Community actors in this movie. Yeah, I'm glad that they also had that moment where they're like, you're gonna create a bunch of realities that are gonna get fucked over. And Bruce was like, well, make sure we don't. And then they kind of did anyway, but really, I think they fucked over those realities for the better. Which means that they still have the Infinity Stones for the little battles they have to fight. It means that Doctor Strange can still become the Sorcerer Supreme in that universe, but it means that they never have to deal with the consequences of the snap.
Yep.
At least not at Thanos' hand.
Yeah, and that was the bit that, like, the timelines go like this, and everything's working out, and then when Thanos figures out what's going on and gets pulled into that timeline, he's getting pulled in from an alternate timeline.
Yeah.
There's this new timeline that's created that has no Thanos, that has no snap. And it's because he left it.
Yeah.
He's gone. And he's now in this one, which is still continuing the way that it always has.
And I think the most negative impact that universe has by losing Thanos is that it also means they lose Gamora and Nebula, and it means in that universe the Guardians probably never become who they do. Yep. And that's sad for that universe, but overall, everyone is better off.
We also get another split universe, where Peter Quill got smacked in the face.
That's true.
Before it comes back to align with our reality.
Shows back up and he's like, guess I gotta restart my song.
What's the matter with you? That was interesting. I like the mechanic that they used. I like the idea that they were limited to the number of times they could jump.
Yes.
That it was about Pym particles, and that Scott really laid out, like, hey, you only get one jump and one jump back, and then you're done. So it had stakes. It had purpose. By doing all of that, it had a way of working in the previous movies and the previous character arcs in a way that was really satisfying.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you're kind of worried that they're going to screw with things, but instead you get an older, wiser Captain America dealing with his younger Boy Scout self in a way that is so funny and makes you appreciate both versions of him, both where he was and how far he's come, and that I can't stop laughing about that moment when 2012 Captain America goes, I could do this all day. And 2023 Captain America goes, I know. Perfect. It's the perfect payoff for both characters.
It is. It shows so much growth from the Boy Scout to the I get it. Okay.
Oh, please, no.
You are so over the top.
And that they've kind of thrown out that annoying characterization that Joss Whedon added in Age of Ultron, that for some reason Captain America is anti-cursing, which is hysterical.
It does make sense, though, that, like, the fact that he is now swearing is great.
It's great, and it means we get that, earlier before that, we get the great exchange between Tony and Scott, about how the suit doesn't, really suit Captain America's ass.
It's America's ass, sir.
Yeah, and then Scott goes, in my mind, that's America's ass. And then after Cap beats up his former self, he looks down and goes, that is America's ass. perfect.
So good.
I loved it.
So good. The groveling that Scott does, the fanboying that he does towards it.
Is a great payoff to who he was in Civil War.
I mean, like, the only other, like, level of fanboying that I think can top it is Spider-Man.
Oh, for sure, Spider-Man.
I think that timeline is still a little bit effed because Loki got the Tesseract and got away.
And left, so I don't know what that means. I guess maybe there's still a chance that Thor tracks him down and they get over it because they're both very old people who can work through it maturely.
Time travel is great. I was really worried when evil Nebula got the GPS thing and came back.
Yes.
The most scared that I was that we were going to lose new Nebula.
Oh, I know.
She's just gone.
I would have been so upset if we lost new Nebula.
I was so glad when Thanos' ship showed up. I was like, yay, Nebula's back.
I like that we got the travel back even further for Tony and Captain America, because as soon as they got there, I immediately knew exactly which two people were in that timeline. Because not only is Agent Carter definitely there, because it's a military base where Hank Pym works, so presumably S.H.I.E.L.D., but you know that Howard Stark is gonna have to be there. They're
the original S.H.I.E.L.D. bros.
Yeah, they're the original S.H.I.E.L.D. bros from the show. I never watched Agent Carter, but
Neither did I.
Yeah, but you know, they were in the show.
Neither did anyone.
Some lesbians did.
That's fair.
But yeah, as soon as they showed up there, I was like, I know exactly which two people are at this base, and I'm glad that they gave due appreciation of both of them.
Yeah, that scene between Tony and his dad
was really nice.
Really great, because he always felt like, not only was he like at the beginning, he was always like, I'm in my father's shadow, and I'm not going to be like my father, and then once he learns how his father died, and he's so upset about it, and like...
And now he's become a father, and I feel like he has a greater understanding of the pressures of fatherhood.
Yeah, I think that was really nice. That was really nice.
It was nice.
I think it was nice.
I think it was nice.
Yeah.
And the moment of Captain America looking at Peggy and making the decision for the greater good that he has to leave, but that was around the time that I started thinking he might come back.
Yeah.
This might have been enough, knowing that he can do this, to come back and make that date.
Yeah. That dance, too.
That dance. Coming from a person who doesn't even care about Captain America that much, I was still sobbing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the other time travel, we've got 3 teams. So we've got the 2012 team, everyone... Oh, I guess we didn't talk about Hulk broke, sadly, trying to smash things. It just feels so uncivilized.
He has to rip his shirt off. He finally gets to wear clothes, and he rips it off.
And he just sort of half-heartedly smashes things.
Smash.
When original Hulk goes, like, breezing through, and then it cuts back, and he's like...
It's just so embarrassed.
It's getting later, so one of my lights is on. Yeah. Sorry for the new glare.
So that was their team.
Yeah, that was their team. And then they had the Galactic team, which was made up of the people on Morag. And then Black Widow and Hawkeye go into Vormir.
Yeah.
Which I knew what was going to happen. The minute that the two of them left for Vormir, we were like, why didn't anyone tell them? And I think it was more just like, I don't think Nebula knew that there had to be a trade-off.
She just knew that he took Gamora there, and then he came back with the Soul Stone, but not Gamora.
Yeah.
And I don't think that she understood that there was a trade until... Clint came back without Natasha.
Yeah, because that was my first thought, was why didn't anyone tell them, before I thought it through and went, oh, no one actually knows what happened on Vormir, because Thanos wouldn't tell anybody, Red Skull is still chilling on Vormir, and Gamora's dead, so none of them have shared.
There were so many, so many fake outs.
Oh, jeez, so many fake outs with those two characters.
It was a heart attack. Like, and then a heart attack. And then a heart attack.
Well, and, like, thinking back to the original Avengers, I didn't give a shit about either of them.
Yep.
And it was really nice to actually care. It sort of felt like that moment in Infinity War when, Wanda and Vision are both consumed by the dust, and, like, Wanda looks up and she has this expression of peace, and even the moment when she's killing Vision, that in Infinity War, all the way leading up to that, you're like, why the hell do I care?
Yeah.
Kill the computer man. It's going to be fine.
I don't care.
But by the time you get to the end...
Sorry, that name,
since
you're watching this.
By the time you get to the end, you really feel for that loss. You really feel for it, because Elizabeth Olsen's honestly a very good actress.
She's really good at it.
And I feel like I had that moment with Black Widow and Hawkeye in this movie that it started and I was like, I've never cared about these two people. Yeah. And I really cared about both of them.
They loved each other. They're not in love with each other.
But they love each
other.
They
love each other, though. That's like a bond that exceeds friendship.
Well, and Age of Ultron, when she comes back to his farm and they're all calling her Auntie Nat. And it's, you know, they care about each other enough that the only other person he was willing to trust with that piece of information was Natasha. And, I loved... Oh my god, speaking of 2012 Avengers fandom, the payoff. I don't know if you got the full effect of it, but when they were flying through space, Clint looks over and goes, "This is nothing like Budapest, right?"
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was all anyone would talk about in 2012 was what the hell happened in Budapest. So when he said that line, I was like, oh my god, people on Tumblr in 2012. It's all happening.
Oh, that was a great payoff.
It was a great payoff.
Yeah.
That was like, if you don't know the context of it, if you don't remember the context of it, it's just a good line. But if you do, right in the heart.
They get that stone, and then, Thor's journey back.
Oh, that's right. I completely, okay.
Thor has to go back to Asgard with Rocket Raccoon.
Yes.
They gotta get Natalie Portman, get that... whatever stone out of her.
It's the reality stone.
The reality stone.
Which they call the ether.
They got some stock footage of Natalie Portman, so she doesn't have to come back. But I was really glad that they didn't make it about that.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah, I was worried they were going to make it about, like, him seeing his girlfriend again, but that isn't what he's mourning that day.
Yeah.
And I feel like you feel that in the line where he sees his mother and Rocket's like, "Who's the fancy person?" And he goes, "That's my mother. She dies today." And you're like,
yeah.
I know his mother dies in this movie. I know that she is dead. But hearing it in those two sentences was like two shots directly to the heart.
And he even kind of broke down when he was explaining about the ether, about his mother dying.
Yeah.
And so it's really important to him. And I kind of like that they continued that idea of him running away from his problems and being too scared to face any of his problems because he's so afraid of failure.
He's lost everything.
Everything that he possibly could have lost, he lost.
Yeah.
He even has the new Asgardians and his friends Korg and Meek, but he still is just constantly drinking. Yeah. And he's just trying to forget.
Everything.
And in this moment, like, he sees Natalie Portman and he's like, I can't do it because he doesn't want to face her, right? But the thing that's most important to him, he takes the time to, try and be like, oh, that's not me. But as soon as she realizes who it is, he tries to connect with her. He has a conversation and he gets that catharsis that he didn't have before, which is nice.
And I think the two things that you miss most if you haven't seen The Dark World are it does incredible work with Thor and Loki's relationship, which I think is only done better in Ragnarok, but honestly, The Dark World lays a lot of really important groundwork for their relationship and how they've always been brothers and the way that they will always forgive each other. And Thor and Loki's relationship to their mother is also very essential in that movie, and you finally get to know more about her. So, like, it's like everyone's least favorite Thor movie, but I appreciated it returning to that character who, to me, is the heart of that movie.
She sees her son in
unimaginable pain.
Yeah, and tries her best to, like, let him know that, you failed, but you're still you can still go forward from here. That was really nice.
It was really lovely.
It's the same thing that parents would say to their children.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, or they should.
Or they should, yeah.
If your mom hasn't told you that, we're your mom now.
That's true. I feel that way whenever I hear, like, anyone having a difficult time with a parent. I'm always like, I hereby adopt you. Mm-hmm. I need you to hear me on this. I'm your mom now.
If you feel like you failed, if you feel like you're at the end of your rope, if you feel like you can't be you anymore, or you just failed so hard, we've all done that.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Especially
us.
Right? It gets better.
Yeah.
Keep moving.
Yeah. Keep moving forward.
Keep on moving.
Keep on going.
Keep going. You got this. So now we got the big stuff.
Yes.
Big stuff.
Big stuff.
We've got the stones now. Tony creates a nice little gauntlet for it. And this is another moment where Thor is trying to be the hero without understanding the consequences.
Yeah.
He's still just trying to throw himself into a situation head first without thinking. Mm-hmm. And his friends are there to tell him this is not the time. Mm-hmm. Your time is going to come, but it's not right now. You
don't have to fix every problem. You have to fix the problem that you are best suited to fix, and this isn't it.
And in this case, we get Brolk, who snaps and brings everyone back.
And I like that they showed that initially with the birds. Mm-hmm. Just, like, immediately there being more birds present. Yeah. That's how Scott realizes, is just, like, it's been quieter. Mm-hmm. Losing half of the animals on the planet, everything's going to be quieter. So I really liked that being the indication before Clint gets his call from his wife. Scott just knows it worked because he went into a van, came out 5 hours later, and the world was quieter.
And what it did to Hulk, you know, mm-hmm. It's great setup. And there's excellent payoff at the end of what this does to him and what it would do to anyone less than him.
Yeah, well,
even Thor.
Yeah, even Thor, and like the reason he, like, obviously he's a big monster man, but the reason he even takes it as well as he does is he says the radiation. Yeah, he's like, I'm already made of radiation.
Gamma radiation makes him stronger. It turned him into the Brolk.
Yeah.
And so he still is, like, laid out because of it.
And probably, like, permanently.
Oh yeah,
wounded.
They show at the end.
He's got the cast and he's got the scarring on his neck which is, I feel, probably going to be the reason that he stays out of future physical conflicts. I'm guessing if they ever bring him back, it would be mostly for his brain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so.
Which would be nice, because I'd really love if he was, like, Peter's new mentor, because that's one of my favorite online relationships that has only been explored on the internet, is a lot of people talking about Peter meeting Bruce and being like, oh my god, you're Bruce Banner, and him being like, yeah, I'm the Hulk. No, the scientist!
Yeah,
that would be really nice. That would be
really nice.
I hope he gets appreciation for his brain and not his Hulk.
He's the new, like, scientist-in-chief for S.H.I.E.L.D. That would be great.
That would be really great.
I love that idea.
That would make me really happy if that's the only way he was incorporated in future movies.
That would be fantastic. So he snaps.
Yes.
He brings everyone back.
Everyone's back.
And you learn later he also tried to bring Natasha back.
Yeah.
In that snap.
Yeah, he tried to do all of it.
It's so sad,
It's so sad. Oh, and I think it gives a reason for us to understand why when Tony snaps in the future, there's no way to snap someone back.
Yeah.
That hasn't been claimed
by the stones.
Yeah. That's why we can't bring back Gamora. It's why we can't bring back Loki or Heimdall, because the only thing that the stones can do is bring back what the stones have taken.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of what that said to me. So we get everybody back, and then Thanos shows up and immediately, like, levels the Avengers. They all get saved, Nebula versus Nebula, and you have that moment where the reason that Gamora ends up fighting on their side is because she talks to 2019, or I guess now 2023 Nebula.
And we know that, like, Gamora's always had those doubts.
Yeah.
And she's always hated
She's always hated
that
Thanos.
Thanos has, like, caused her to do this. But she never really connected to Nebula. And now she's like, what do you mean we're sisters? What do you mean? Okay, but, you know, all right, if you're telling the truth, this is our chance. Let's go stop. And it's really heartbreaking that the other Nebula is still so devout.
Yeah.
And that they have to kill her because
she hasn't been through those encounters with Gamora trying to save her. She's never seen that side of her. And the one benefit that future Nebula has is that she knows that Gamora would risk it all for her.
Yep.
And I think that that's really meaningful for, you know, Gamora already knows she has that capacity, so to hear Nebula say, you know, we've moved on, we are sisters, and I care about you, would immediately be enough to make Gamora go, okay, if that's the truth, then that I'm way more willing to fight for that than this man who's raised us.
Yeah. It was
really nice.
It was really nice. The fight. Thanos sits down, confident that he is going to just kill anyone who comes after him, and that his daughter's going to just bring him the stones, and that he's going to win. And mostly it's because of that footage where he's like, I'm going to win.
Yeah, I am inevitable. And he's not.
Yeah.
Which is
oh my gosh,
really great for him to slowly see.
That scene was so. It was so powerful. That, I mean, I know I cried for several reasons.
For so much
during
crying.
That. There was sadness. There was happiness. There was overwhelming likeness. It was everything that I thought it could be and more.
And more.
Because as soon as those other characters started showing up, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So powerful.
It was so I mean, I was sobbing because it felt like we were seeing so much work and so much dedication coming to fruition in a way that I wasn't ready for. And as soon as all of those portals opened up, and as soon as you see T'Challa and Shuri, as soon as you see the three of them walk through, you can feel the tide turn, and you slowly get to see these people come back. And I appreciate that Peter came through, obviously, with Doctor Strange, because they probably would have both woken back up on Titan along with the other Guardians. So that's where they're coming from. And yeah, at that point it was just overwhelmed for me. That's why I was sobbing.
You see Evangeline Lilly and you're like, I'm crying because she's gonna meet Scott and Scott's gonna be so happy.
Yeah, and that's how I felt about everyone. Like, when Peter showed up, I was so excited he was there, but I was also like, oh my god, Tony.
That one broke me. So, like, Gamora meeting Peter, that was really
lot.
Yeah, but Peter Parker showing up and explaining why he wasn't there. He feels like he's like, I'm so sorry, Mr. Stark. You know, I was with that wizard guy and he said that we were coming to help you, and
yeah, he says that it's been 5 years, but it doesn't feel like 5 years. And then Tony just pulls him into that hug that, I feel like that was not the moment I cried hardest. We're getting to those two moments.
Yeah,
but that was a runner-up for
it definitely was.
Tears.
Yeah.
So many tears.
And again, that hug is just like, it's a payoff for earlier.
It's a payoff for Infinity War and the fact that he sort of collapsed on him as he was fading.
And for that, this is their first real hug, because Peter collapsed onto him there, and then earlier in that car, he reached over and he's like, I'm reaching for the handle. It's not a hug. You know? Like, this is the first genuine hug, and like, you really feel it.
And the last genuine hug, which I think soon as they do that hug, I feel like I kind of knew that Tony wasn't making it out.
The other confirming factor was how much time Cap got with the hammer.
Oh, God! Ah!
Hammer to him, and Thor's like, I knew it!
Okay, as soon as that hammer went down, it landed on the ground, and, like, I felt like every time I had a premonition about what was coming, I couldn't always lean over to you and tell you what I thought was gonna happen, because I knew we were feeling the same thing. As soon as it hit the ground, I was like, Captain America. I remember Age of Ultron. He made that hammer shift. Come on. And as soon as it landed in his hand, that was the moment that I think our theater almost had that Hulk smash moment.
That eruption moment of like...
there were audible gasps, there were a couple of audible cheers, and a couple people clapped. And nothing will ever compare to the first Avengers movie for me in that audience reaction, but that was the closest I think we came in this movie to everyone being like, yeah!
I know that I had to stifle a cheer right there, because that whole thing was so awesome.
Cool. And when they both land and and Cap is holding the axe and Thor has the hammer, and he goes, no, give me that one. And they just
it's smaller. Yeah, you get the smaller one. That was so great.
It was great. Well, and we skipped past the 3 OG people walking towards Thanos.
Yeah, that was really great.
Really great.
They're like, just the 3 of them, the 3 original Avengers.
The 3 who landed in that triangle in the woods in the first Avengers and immediately wanted to fight each other.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
And to see the things that they had used on one another to fight in 2012 being used together to fight a new enemy, again, was just like so worth it. It was such a great way to take those characters at the very end. The way that Cap is using the shield and reflecting things, and the way that Thor uses his lightning to charge up Iron Man so he can shoot.
Oh yeah.
They're all of their powers, but finally being used together.
Yeah. It was a Captain Planet moment. Comment below if you know who Captain Planet is and are old enough to have watched it. By their powers combined, they were the OG Avengers.
Yeah.
And that was
really,
fantastic.
Really great.
And I really liked, too, that once the battle got bigger, that we got to see people fighting in that space and in that large of a battle that we haven't got to see before.
Yeah.
When Pepper came in as rescue.
Oh my god, when Pepper came in.
Oh, when she came in as rescue and like just helped Peter, just grabbed him and was like, I got you, kid.
I got you, kid.
Oh.
Yeah. Like I said, by this point,
good.
there weren't there weren't stopping points in the tears. It was just ebbs and flows of the amount. So by that point, I was so overwhelmed that I wasn't even paying attention to my body anymore. I could just feel tears running down my cheeks as I tried to absorb everything.
Yeah, it's something that I got to see again because I only know like flashes.
Yeah,
from it. It was all so good.
Yeah, and then there was the moment when Thanos tells them to rain fire, and all of the sorcerers put up their shields.
That
which
was
great.
So good.
But then they're still failing, and then when Captain Marvel comes in and she shoots through the ships like Last Jedi style, takes down the ships. And I was so glad because like so many dude bros online were like, they only introduced Captain Marvel so that she can come in and be ultra powerful and fight Thanos. And I'm glad that the Russos were like, excuse me, fuck you, first of all, and second of all, she's the best, so...
And like, no, Captain Marvel's job is to fly through ships.
Her job is not to punch Thanos.
Yeah.
She knows other people can handle that.
She did punch Thanos a bit, but like, it wasn't like, oh, she wins.
Well, there we go.
He's dead.
Thank goodness we have someone here to finish him off now.
No.
Because that's not the fucking point of Captain Marvel.
It was really nice, though, to see Thanos fight her, because it really also gave you a scope, an additional scope as to how powerful Thanos is. Just on his own. He was able to just fight her.
Yeah, and like she made more headway than some other Avengers did, but
the only way he was able to like knock her off was to rip the Power Stone out and use it against her
specifically.
So you need an Infinity Stone to fight Captain Marvel effectively.
Yeah.
She's so great.
She's so great. But I feel like the scene that I cried the absolute hardest when I was kind of shaking in my chair and you checked to make sure I was okay was the moment with every Marvel woman coming forward. And
don't worry, she won't be.
The same thing that, I mean, they did that in Infinity War, but there were 3 women on the good side and one woman on the bad side in Infinity War. And even that, like, in the theater, I was getting emotional because I was like, oh, this is so cool to see. Look at all of these incredible, powerful women. But to have that moment where they say the same thing, don't worry, she isn't alone. And it just kept zooming out, and there just kept being more of them with all of their powers and abilities, and then they just marched forward.
And they got to all be badasses.
They got to all be badasses. They got to use their power together. They got to use their power on their own.
Yep.
And yeah, it was a moment where, like, I've had this moment in a few movies where, like, when I watched Force Awakens for the first time, and Rey uses the Force and she grabs the lightsaber. And I think I saw that movie 10 times before I was able to even remotely hold it together during that scene. Because the first time it happened was, again, like, someone in the theater, it might have been Zoe, checked on me. Because I was so overwhelmed by finally being able to see something like that. That my body couldn't handle it. The same moment happened in Wonder Woman, when she does the No Man's Land scene. But I was not the only woman crying in that theater. Yeah. When you looked around at the women in the theater seeing Wonder Woman for the first time, none of us held it together very well.
Yeah.
And it was really, really powerful. Yeah. And I cried a lot, and it was really cool to see a superhero with my haircut, who's also a lady, beat the shit out of some people. It was so cool.
Like, and because of how much you've talked about, like, how you've been missing your whole life that representation and wanting just that same thing that men have had the whole time of getting that badass, getting that woman who is able to, like, revel in her power, who has the power, who can use the power, and doesn't need to, like, have a man there to help them. And, like, that was another reason why I, like, reached over, was like, oh my god, look at this is so powerful. Like, this must be so amazing for you.
And like,
and I'm so happy for you in this moment, because I knew that was going to be just amazing.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, geez.
So we wrap up that battle.
And it
was amazing.
And Tony gets the Infinity Stones, and Tony snaps. And all of Thanos' army goes to dust.
And you can immediately see the toll. As soon as he snaps, it just...
You know that's it. That's it for Tony.
Yeah.
Which, as I said at the beginning of this, Tony Stark is my favorite character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That was him saying... Not even him saying goodbye to Pepper, because he couldn't manage words to say goodbye to Pepper. He was in so much pain and he was so close to leaving. But Pepper saying goodbye to him was the second hardest, I think. I cried.
Oh my god, when she said... And, like it just hits, like, I think some, like, nerve for me, probably put there by a lot of, like, patriarchy and, like, men's roles and stuff like that, but still the idea that you as the provider and you as the father have set out to save them and set out to help them, and now you know that you're not going to be around anymore. To have her say, we're going to be fine, and you rest. You can rest now. That was... Oh,
that was so heartbreaking. And the way that she held it together just up until the moment that he was gone.
Yeah.
And I love that Peter got there first.
Yeah.
But he was immediately willing to move for aside. Pepper.
Yeah.
That everyone there just knew that there was no one who could go but Pepper.
Yeah. Peter came up. Basically, I think that in that moment, it was the role reversal.
It was.
From Titan, of him. The only thing he knows is it's going to be fine, because it's always fine. I'll we're going to get you help, and please don't go, and I'm so sorry. And, like, in that moment, Tony can't speak, and he's dying, and still he's trying to comfort Peter. Yeah. And that's so much.
We get to the end. It defeated Thanos. Everyone's okay. Well, I mean, not everyone's okay. Clearly, we get the Tony funeral, who, I recognize basically everyone attending, except for the boy in the back.
I think the kid from the bicycle earlier was there.
I have no idea who that kid was. If you know who that kid was.
It's the kid from Iron Man 3.
No! That would be so sad!
It's the kid from Iron Man 3.
Oh my god! We had to switch memory cards, but we're wrapping it up.
Yeah.
That was devastating. But then we get Captain America. He's gonna go back and return all the Infinity Stones, and I think you kind of know he's not coming back.
Well, Bucky knew.
Bucky knew, yes.
Yeah, he said goodbye to him.
Yeah, okay.
Bruce says it'll be 5 seconds. It's gonna be
5 seconds for us.
And I like that he took back Mjolnir, because you gotta return that, otherwise, he doesn't have it earlier.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fact that he doesn't come back and then he's just sitting waiting on that bench for them it's good.
I mean, that's been his character from the beginning. I was saying this yesterday, that as much as I really wanted, Captain America to kiss Bucky and finally make us all happy, but yeah, as much as I wanted that to happen, I've known from the beginning of Captain America, it's Peggy. That's his person, and I'm very fine with that being his person, and it was, again, a perfect way to bookend him as a character.
Yeah.
It just made sense. He'd done what he needed to. He fought every battle. He did everything, and he finally deserved to rest, and he finally deserved to make it back in time for that dance.
I feel like it's not so much that he was ready to rest or that he deserved to rest. It was that he deserved to live.
He deserved to live.
Because
absolutely.
He went from military, like his whole life he's been fighting, and then military he's been fighting. He freezes and comes back. He's Avenger, fight, and it was Tony who told him you should do some living, and so he did. He took Tony's advice, and he had a life, and that was beautiful.
It was beautiful, and I was still trying to collect myself at the end there, trying to pull back the tears, but I feel like I had a minor moment of recognizing the power for someone else in that moment when he handed over the shield to Sam, and now Sam is Captain America, and I was like, this is so fantastic. So many young black kids get to see a black Captain America, and that gets to be their Captain America. And that was when he handed it off, I knew it was going to be Bucky or Sam. And it would have been great if it was Bucky, but it was never going to be Bucky. No, it needed to be Sam.
And I mean, that's what it is in the comics right now. But part of the reason in the comics is because it's already been Bucky. When Captain America died in the comics, Bucky took over.
Right.
And I loved that moment in this where Sam turns to Bucky, not necessarily for permission, but are you sure you shouldn't be Captain America? And he's like, it has to be you.
Yeah, and obviously Bucky's going to be in a lot more movies, because Sebastian Stan still has a 9-movie contract going forward, so he's going to be in it, but, he doesn't need to be Captain America, because he's never going to be Soldier Boy that Captain America was and Captain America is, and that's Sam.
Yeah, Sam is still pure. He still holds true all those values that Captain America does, and
Bucky's working on that, but he knows that Captain America's legacy can't be kind of stained with the things he's living with, which I think is really
And if we don't get a Lethal Weapon style buddy cop comedy,
it's all I want.
If we don't get a Bucky and Sam buddy cop, that's.
I mean, we already have established that a buddy comedy works in the Marvel Cinematic Universe because that's what Captain Marvel was. So
and going forward, we established that they're great at it in Civil War.
Yes,
they're in a car for 2 minutes, and it was great.
They were my favorite part of Civil War. Oh my god, every part of their interaction was the best part of that movie. What is the final shot? I forgot what the final shot is. Is it of Captain America and Peggy dancing?
Yeah.
It is?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
And then that after the credits scene, I mean, it's not a scene. It's different. They changed it up because
it's the end of an era.
It's the end of an era, and it's those hammer blows of Tony creating the first Iron Man armor, and it's nice.
It is nice. And Thor's off with the Guardians. Yep. And maybe Peter can win Gamora back, and maybe he won't. Peter Quill, sorry. God, I
so
do have to specify. Maybe Quill will get her back, and maybe he won't, but that's a new thing for them to do in Phase 4. Yeah. And Peter is clearly back with May. Aunt May was there. And
oh man, that scene with Happy though.
Oh jeez, with Happy and the cheeseburgers.
Yeah, the little girl
when
wanting
she says she wants a
cheeseburger, and
cheeseburger.
that your dad loved cheeseburgers, and I'll get you as many cheeseburgers as you want.
Sobbing. Yeah, that is Avengers Endgame. We are at the end of, I mean, not the end of Phase 3, because Far From Home is technically the end of Phase 3, but, I mean...
Fighting Fishbowl Head.
The end of an era. Yeah. And whatever happens going forward with the Avengers, it's a completely new era of story, and I'm really excited about it, because I think we have a brilliant new cast of characters, but I feel like we bid goodbye to these characters in a way that really was right for them.
Yeah, roller coaster of emotions, but all good.
Yeah. And like, we're definitely going to go see it again, because I need to consume it more times. You know, I had to see Infinity War a bunch of times in the theater to really get the impact of it, so... But I loved it.
Yeah.
And this has probably been a very long video.
We didn't even talk about Wanda fighting.
Oh my god, we didn't even talk about Wanda. Oh, shit, I wanted to talk about the fact that, like, so many people deserved to fight Thanos, and I'm really glad that a few of them did, because Wanda deserved to fight Thanos, Nebula and Gamora deserved to fight Thanos, and I'm really glad that they got their chance, and I'm really glad that Wanda really gave it her all to fuck Thanos up, because she deserved it.
Yep. It was great. So good that there's not even enough time to talk about all of it.
No.
And go see it.
Go see it.
If you haven't seen it, we just told you the whole plot.
We just told you everything that happened.
You will still love it.
You will still want to go and see it, and I still thought it was brilliant filmmaking and storytelling, and I am so glad that I got to be a part of, like, the Marvel Cinematic Universe for this beginning bit.
Samesies.
Because it was really cool to experience. Starting from 2008 to now.
And the fact that we both grew up with it. You at 13, me at 12, 11, me
Yeah.
at 11.
Yeah, when I was 6.
It was fantastic. We hope that you enjoyed us talking a lot about
We
it.
really, really hope that you enjoyed this much talking about it. And patrons, if this wasn't the length of video you had in mind, I'm deeply sorry. But I promise I'm going to do a shorter one next month. Thanks for watching! I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye.